Right. You're welcome back again today for another episode of Evangelist TV. We're going to talk about fear, the fear of God. Today, we're going to talk about the fear of God. And my beloveds, fear simply is to be afraid of something, to be afraid of something, or to be terrified for a dread, and to be awesome about a situation. So fear means to be afraid of something greater. Yes. So today we're going to talk about godly fear. And the fear we are talking about today is what we call reverential fear. Reverential fear is the fear of God. In fact, there are so many things that you can fear. There are so many different types of fear. But today, in our episode today, we are talking about the fear of God, in which we call the reverential fear. The fear of God. In Psalm 5, verse 7, it talk about how we will fear God in our worship. How we will worship God with the spirit of fear. And that in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 28 and 29, he talk about fear there. And God is to be feared. And today, the emphasis is on Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. And I read, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandment, for this is the whole duty of man." Amen to that. And this is an advice, a counsel of Solomon. It's a counsel of Solomon after gaining a lot of wealth, very wealthy, very popular, highly popular, and having a lot of authority. And he has come to a conclusion matter in this world that the only thing man need to do for the whole of your life is to fear God. Simple. Nothing more, nothing less. You need to fear God, whatever be the situation. So Ecclesiastes is actually edifying us today to fear God. Why are we to fear God? Why are we supposed to fear God? Because God is a sovereign God. And in one day, you will be judged. You will be judged of your deeds on this earth. God has sent us to come onto this earth. And in one day, we will account on our stewardship of our lives, what we have used our lives to do on this earth. So it is incumbent on you and I to be fearful unto God, to fear God, so as to live a life that will not implicate us in the day of judgment. Because judgment and vengeance, it belongs to God. Hebrew 10, 27 and 30, the Bible says, "Vengeance is mine, I will recompense anyone." And so for fear of judgment, you must also fear God. And so the fear of God will make you to escape the judgments and vengeance of God. Without the fear of God, brothers and sisters, without the fear of God, sin will reign in your life. Sin will reign in your life. And we should know that God is a consuming fire. Hebrews 12:29. God is a consuming fire. And therefore, if God can consume fire, we need to fear this awesome God. We need to fear this awesome God. And without the fear of God, he says, then sin will reign in the world. Sin will reign in the world. What is the implication about? It implies that the fear of God is the fear of sin. Brother, it's so beautiful. This logic is simple to understand. The fear of God is the fear of sin and evil. And so when you fear God, then you will fear to sin. Some other people say, where there is the fear of God, there is a fear of sin. Where there is a fear of God, there is a fear of sin. So in Proverbs chapter 8, verse 13, told us, when Proverbs chapter 8, verse number 13, he said, the fear of the Lord is to hate evil. Amen. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil. So for you to fear God, for you to be recognized in the sight of God as a fearful servant, is to fear evil. And when you fear evil, it is a sign that you fear God. So your fearing of God is not abstract. You cannot just sit down and say, I fear God. You fear God. What have you done? What have you done? Or what have you not done to actually show that you fear God? So the psalmist says, the fear of God is to hate evil. If you see anybody who fear God, the person fears evil. He's afraid to sin. So if you are afraid to sin, why? Because of God. Because of God, I will not sin. So the fear of God is the fear of evil. And we can see this manifesting itself in the patriarchal age. In the patriarchal age, we see Joseph fearing of God. Joseph, we can say Joseph fears God. What did he do in Genesis chapter 42, verse 18? Joseph, after he was tempted by the Potiphar's wife, he said something that I cannot do this evil in the sight of God. And then if you read Genesis chapter 42, you can really see what Joseph did. And it's a clear indication that Joseph really feared God. He said, I cannot do this despicable sin against my God. I fear God. Amen. So the fear of God made Joseph not to fall into that temptation. So the fear of God is the fear of evil. And the same way it applies to Job. In the book of Job, chapter 1, verse 8, he talk about the fear of God. Because of the fear of God, Job did not sin against his God. He was so upholding his faith during the trial times. And when he felt sick, he was so afraid to sin. Even it came to a point when the wife said, why not sin against your God? You are still following this God? He said, what? I will not sin against my God. And so the fear of God is the fear of sin. And one more example is the Egyptian midwives. When the Egyptian Pharaoh commanded the midwife to kill every male child of the Jews is to be killed in Egypt. But with these Egyptian midwives who fear God, decided not to kill them. And that was how come Moses was spared. Amen. Moses was not killed because the midwife that actually helped with the labor of Moses' mother decided not to kill the baby Moses. So the fear of God is the fear of doing evil. It will reflect that so and so, since a person fear God. It's the aftermath of evil. If you are able to fear the evil, then it reflects as you being fearing of God. So we can see the fear of God is also the obedience to the commandments of God. We can see clearly Noah is because of the fear of God that he obeyed the commandments of God. So the fear of God, number two, is the obedience of the commandment of God. Is the obedience of the commandment of God. Brothers and sisters, do you fear God? If you fear God, what did God command you to do? That are you not doing? What did God say? Do this. Don't do this. And you simply obeyed without questioning. And so the fear of God is the fear and upholding of the commandment of God. It's the obedience. And we can also see Abraham also obeyed God. When God asked him to kill his beloved son, Isaac. Yes, but because he feared God, he was going to do it. It is the fear of God. God commanded him, Abraham, please move from your family to a land I will show you. He never know where he was going, but the fear of God was in him, and he had to obey the commandment. So we can rightly say the fear of God is also the obedience to the commandments of God, or obedience to the will of God. And as we continue, we can see that even coming to the New Testament era, in the early Christian, they also fear God. Acts chapter 9, verse 31. He said, the Christian continue in fellowship with the Lord with the fear of God. They continue in the fellowship with the fear of God. So, brothers and sisters, Christians are to fear God. Christians are to fear God, because the early Christians fear God. That was how they were able to worship God in truth and in spirit and in the whole heart, and they were so committed in faith. So it was because they fear God. It is fear of the Lord that can make you be a proper Christian.